Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name is Dave Grelly. I'm joined by Harman. I forgot to turn the lights on my set because I'm so fired up about the Blue Jays, and I was talking to you guys about the Blue Jays and how excited I am right now. Had to miss the game last night. I was at Rogers Arena, so I was watching Canucks versus Rangers, which we're obviously going to talk about. But game 5 tonight between the Jays and the Dodgers. The World Series is just awesome. Like, people don't get upset that I'm talking about baseball. It's not because of the Jays. I'm talking about baseball because of the World Series, and I'm fired up. It's been a really good World Series too, especially given the fact that the Dodgers swept the Brewers in the last round in the NLCS. People didn't think the Jays would put up a fight, but man, oh man, are they putting up a fight?
Yeah, I'm excited to watch the rest of it unfold. I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to watch as much of the playoff run live as I've wanted to. But now that it's really heating up here, and it's also pretty cool that the series is gonna get decided in Toronto one way or the other. It's becoming must-watch TV, and I have some of my friends that don't even care about baseball at all tuning in just because the Jays are in it. So
Yeah,
really, really
it's
cool.
it's exciting, man. It's exciting. Baseball. I've always loved baseball, but there's a lot of people that are watching baseball for the first time right now as well. Like, people are coming onto the sport. People love the pitch clock, myself included. So yeah, baseball's a lot of fun right now. All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, you know what wasn't exactly fun last night?
Look at you and your transitions. Let's get into it. Our opening segment today is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. You can skip the line and not have to pay cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 on select drinks, and more. With the arcade, bar, and street food menu, make Greta your spot to watch the big game. The big game last night disappointed. I came on this show yesterday. I was talking about how excited I was. Tom Willander, NHL debut. JC Miller's return to Rogers Arena, how exciting this was all going to be. And we didn't get any of that. It was a 2-0 shutout victory for Jonathan Quick, not Shesterkin, Jonathan Quick, and the New York Rangers. I don't know, like, instant reaction. I wrote in the second period, I was like, you know what? This game's really boring. That's all I wrote. I was basically just like, it's odd man rushes that are somehow dying in the neutral zone. Like, the
Yeah.
puck blowing up on everyone's stick. Like, it wasn't even because of defensive pressure. It was like the guys that never played hockey before. It was unbelievable. It was one of the worst games I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and thankfully it got a little bit better towards the end when the Canucks were pressing. Then
Canucks
there
came
was all
alive in
right,
the
some
third. They came
momentum. They
alive in
really
the third.
last 10 minutes it got entertaining and exciting.
Yes.
But
Yes.
boy, the first 50 minutes, especially last night was Frozen Frenzy, so all 32 teams were in action. So I was flipping through watching a ton of games. And this has been a recent trend where even after, let's say, the Canucks Predators game last week, I flipped to watch Colorado Carolina, I think it was. You go from a Canucks game and it's played at one speed to a lot of other teams around the NHL, and it's, I'm not gonna lie, way more entertaining to watch. And I don't mean that as a knock against the Canucks, because obviously this team doesn't have Quinn Hughes, a ton of injuries. I don't mean this as a criticism of
I mean it as a
how this
criticism of the
roster
Rangers.
has been constructed. But yeah, that's the other part of it, is they were also playing a Rangers team that has shifted their identity under Mike Sullivan, where last year they were this defensive disaster. It was worse than the peak dysfunction of the Bruce Boudreau era Canucks. Watching the Rangers last year, to now they've tightened up, and you could see through the neutral zone they're very structured. They don't give up a lot defensively, but the flip side of that coin is it also offensively looks a lot like Rick Tocchet hockey for the New York Rangers, and they can't score. And now you've got an undermanned Canucks team that doesn't have much offensive juice either. So yeah, the entertainment factor was a little bit lacking, and of course made worse by Conor Garland's injury.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story of the game, unfortunately. Thatcher Demko is great. He's always going to be great, it seems. But Conor Garland goes down at the end of the first period, takes a big hit from Sam Carrick. Marcus Pettersson drops the gloves, answers. Love that for Marcus Pettersson, by the way. I want to make sure I say that. Absolutely love that from Marcus Pettersson. Sam Carrick is no, walk in the park to fight, to drop the gloves with. So huge shout out to Marcus Pettersson. That's a level of heart that you want to see on this team. So Conor Garland goes down with that hit, plays the second period, but then has to depart, doesn't come back for the third. Adam Foote insinuated last night that it was that hit from Carrick that was the reason that Garland is out, and he will not make the trip. We saw a couple reports, Patrick Johnson, Rick Dhaliwal, among the people reporting it, that Garland won't make the trip. PJ also reported that Quinn Hughes isn't going to make the trip, but that Alvin is hopeful that Hughes could join either in Nashville or Minnesota or Nashville, I should say, since they're in Minnesota first. But yeah, like this team, their injury issues have somehow gotten worse. They've lost their best defenseman in Hughes, and now they've lost their best forward in Conor Garland.
Yeah, not to mention Hedl, your top penalty killer, and Bluger, and you're definitely seeing the impact there.
Lekarmaki, the list goes on. Like they're missing a lot of guys. Jacob just pulled it up. Here's the full list, all right? And I'm going to include Guillaume Brisebois, Conor Garland, Guillaume Brisebois, Jonathan Lekarmaki, Philip Hedl, Derek Forbert, Teddy Bluger, Quinn Hughes, Victor Mancini.
This is brutal. And honestly, I was curious to see, how does this compare to other teams around the NHL? Because there have been some other teams that have been beat up. And yet, I don't think it's quite as bad as the Canucks' current situation, right? There's obviously Florida without Matthew Tkachuk, Alexander Barkov, and I believe Brad Marchand missed the Panthers' last game for personal reasons. But you can also see it in the Panthers' record to start the season. I believe they're 5-5-1. They've been playing around 500 hockey. The Jets, since the start of the year, have had a bit of a rough ride where Dylan Sandberg, who's the underrated rock of that blue line and makes whoever he plays with way better. No, they don't have him. Their captain, Adam Lowry, who is, I think, one of the most underrated two-way centers in the league, and no Cole Perfetti. They've been a little bit, I don't want to say fortunate, but they've been carried by Connor Hellebuyck continuing his MVP-like play from last year. But also the difference is they at least have the top end of Scheifele and Connor that are absolutely cooking. And so it's really those top few players that are carrying this team at this standpoint. And then you'd look at the Carolina Hurricanes, where they're missing their three top defensemen right now, Jacob Slavin, Keandre Miller, and Shane Gostisbehere. The Canes have a good record this year overall, but I believe they've dropped 3 of their last 4. So they've been scuffling without their top defenseman in the lineup as well. And look, we know that this team isn't constructed with enough high-end talent to where they're going to win games when they're missing really key players, right? It's not that it's not that this is a contending team where if you subtract some of these guys that they can still stay afloat. We knew when we were discussing the Canucks this year that they needed quite a few things to go right for them to make the playoffs, and injury luck was part of it.
And you talk about high-end talent. Like, aside from Elias Pettersson, I said it earlier, Conor Garland's been their best forward this year. Not aside from Elias Pettersson. That's a side note of what I was saying. Conor Garland's been their best forward, period. So you take away a team's best forward, you take away their best defenseman, and they don't have the best depth behind those guys, you're really going to feel the effects. Like, Kiefer Sherwood is going to be on the first line. And that's not a knock on Kiefer Sherwood, but again, this is a guy that is a $1.5 million player. They signed him to be like a bottom 6 winger, and he's been great. Don't get me wrong, but my broader point is that the guys that are going to get bumped up, like, they don't have the depth to withstand these kinds of injuries. And again, we talked about Elias Pettersson's early season and how he seemed to take a step playing with Conor Garland. Now there's that aspect of it. Are you still going to get a good version of Elias Pettersson? Like, also, Elias Pettersson wasn't phenomenal last night by any means, but what version of Elias Pettersson are you going to get now that you don't have Conor Garland? It raises all sorts of questions. It's not great. This is why I started the show talking about the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and this is where there's one, I think, part of the market that is panicking, right? That's looked at, all right, the process for the team, even when they were relatively healthy, wasn't the best. They were carried a little bit by Dr. Demko and some red hot shooting percentage efficiency. And now you've got all these injuries. There is part of the market that is skies falling down, and then there's the other side that's essentially saying, well, the injuries suck. You can't really judge this team for where they're at, and you can't really be hypercritical of them because of how many absences they have right now. And while I definitely understand where the people in the latter camp come from, the problem the Canucks are facing right now is they can't afford to have a year derailed for really any reason, right? This isn't a team that has the margin for error to where, Vegas, for example. Do you remember a few years ago when they were just crushed by injuries and barely ended up missing the playoffs? That ended up being a one-off. The Canucks can't afford to have a one-off because they haven't had success up until this point, and because they're not a young team anymore. Yes, they have younger prospects coming, but the core itself, this is year 7 for Quinn Hughes. This is year 8 for Elias Pettersson. This is year 9 for Brock Besser. This roster doesn't have the longest runway and a lot of chances to get things on the rails, and especially with Quinn's contract status, it doesn't matter whether it's injuries or player, like whatever reason it is, this team just can't afford to have another season go off the rails. And I think the disappointing part is obviously this to some degree has been out of their control, but the reason isn't going to matter. It's just the results. The only thing that matters this year are results, and it's just really unfortunate that they're caught up in this position now.
People in the chat are just kind of, I don't know how I want to describe the chat, but it just seems like everybody's just like, okay, let's just wait. Apathetic. There it is. Jacob just says they're like apathetic. That's the word. They're apathetic. Like, and this isn't a criticism of the chat. I think this is just everybody saying like, yeah, okay, what are they supposed to do? They've got these injuries. They're going to go out on a road trip. Probably not going to be great, but what are they supposed to do? I think, look, we mapped out the last road trip. We were like, okay, if you get 3 wins and 2 losses, that's a successful road trip. Man, if they get 2 wins on this road trip, you're like, oh my gosh, this look at the heart, look at the hustle on this team. If they get 1, you're like, okay, like that's expected. And if they get 3, you're gonna be saying, well, you know what? There's a ton of injuries on this team, so whatever. I'm not expecting too much from them. Again, it could change if you get Quinn Hughes back, but like I'm looking at this road trip and I don't mean to be like doom and gloom. I'm just saying like this is look at the team that they're going to have to ice. It's not going to be good.
Yeah, and the one silver lining is at least the teams that they're playing on this road trip aren't playing particularly great hockey right now. The Blues and Wild are both off to disappointing starts. And then you've got the Nashville Predators. Plus, when you come back, you got Chicago, who, yeah, they're off to a good start, but they're still the Chicago Blackhawks. That's not the most talented team on paper. So the point being, you have a bit of a reprieve in terms of opponent quality over the next few games. It's the middle of November where you're hoping by that point you can get Quinn Hughes and Conor Garland back, because that's when you get, starting from November 9th to November 20th, you've got these games are in a row, by the way. I'm not skipping any of their weak opponents when I list off these teams. You get Colorado, Winnipeg, Carolina, Tampa, and Florida on a back-to-back on the road, and then the Dallas Stars. So that middle of November is when you need bodies back. I think in the short term, and this is where I'm sure Adam Foote might have a bit of a temptation to ride Thatcher Demko, and hope that between Demko, Pettersson, and maybe you bottle up some of the early shooting percentage luck you had, that it is possible that they could at least hang over the next few games, because these aren't the most daunting opponents. But it's by the middle of November that you're going to need bodies back, because if you don't have Quinn Hughes and Conor Garland returning in the lineup by then, that's when you run into some of the top teams in the league. That's when I think the talent deficit is going to be too significant to overcome.
I'm just looking at the schedule, CanucksArmy.com. You go to the team drop down, you can view the Canucks schedule. These 3 games, okay? Saturday, Minnesota, Wednesday, St. Louis. Thursday, St. Louis. I got it. Thursday, St. Louis. Saturday, Minnesota. Monday, Nashville. Those are the 3 games coming up on the road trip. No back-to-backs. No back-to-backs on that road trip. How many games does Kevin Lankinen start on this road trip? And really, my question, does he get a start? It's going to be 1 or 0. So how many starts does Kevin Lankinen get?
Yeah, that's a good question, especially because the schedule is pretty spaced out. Even when they return on Wednesday to Chicago, they then have 2 days off before playing Columbus on Saturday.
And it's a back-to-back.
And it's a back-to-back. So you know you're going to use Lankinen at least for 1 start on the back-to-back. I'd like to see Lankinen get 1 start besides just that back-to-back. Just because Demko, he's been unbelievable, but the last thing this team could afford is riding Demko into the ground and then having him get hurt. Like that's what I'm saying. You can't have that happen at all. So in my mind, I'd like to see Lankinen get one of those starts. And I think bigger picture, when you look at this team not like being so shorthanded, essentially, what I really want to see is them tighten up defensively and have a structure to fall back on. It's something Jim Rutherford has spoken for years about, hey, when things aren't going well for us for whatever reason, you want to be a team that has a defensive structure that you can rely on to at least hang in games and make sure that you're not exposed. And that's where I think both at 5-on-5 and on the PK, they continue to be pretty leaky. I know they only allowed 1 goal really with a goaltender in the net in that game, but looking at clear sight analytics from that Rangers game, Stephen Valiquette tweeted out this data, and this, by the way, is more informative than any of the natural static data, because natural static is just looking at shot location essentially, whereas clear sight is way more inputs. It's a type of data that NHL teams themselves use. In that game, and this is again where Thatcher Demko, I feel like, masks how much this team still gives up off the rush sometimes. The Rangers had 3.6 expected goals in that game. In all situations, the Canucks had 1.6. So I saw a lot of commentary coming out of that game where fans were saying, the Canucks were pretty unlucky not to have scored a goal on Jonathan Quick, considering some of the looks that they had. They probably deserved a bounce. And I agree. I think they created enough to at least get 1. But the flip side of that coin is that the Rangers also generated enough to where they deserved more than the 1 goal they scored on Thatcher Demko. You think about the JT Miller missing the net on the crossing backdoor with the tap in, essentially. Vakanainen hitting the crossbar in the second period. The second period, the Rangers started with a power play. Panarin made a cross seam backdoor similar to the Miller chance, where whoever was at the net front with an open net whiffed on that opportunity. And there were a number of dazzling rush saves that Demko had to make on the first power play the Rangers had. Some of the rebound stops he made on Radish. So the point being, this team still gives up a lot, and I think that's part of my concern. Is it's fine so long as Demko is playing like a Vezina caliber goaltender, but you don't know if Lankinen can thrive in that kind of defensive environment. And it's also no guarantee that Demko continues playing this well all the time. Sometimes even elite goalies have off nights here or there.
I want to get through some individual performances from last night's game. Let's start with Tom Willander. Makes his NHL debut. I asked Adam Foote about it, and Jacob, you just turn on your mic because I did not do a proper prep for today's show. Do we have the clip of Adam Foote answering my question about Tom Willander?
Yes, I believe it was answering your question, but we have a clip of Adam Foote answering a question about Tom Willander, so we'll assume it's correct.
So we'll assume this is the right one.
It's going to be one of them.
Let's play it.
Sorry, I just need 1 second, but yes, we can play that clip.
Beautiful.
A little bit earlier, but it's fast, and they were coming, and I thought he settled down and made some great decisions and was good with the puck, and he even made some good offensive plays as well. But, jumping into a heavy-paced game like that, it's for a young D is always going to be hard, but I thought he did well.
Okay, so then I asked him, you were here last year when Elias Pettersson made the jump to the NHL level. What are some of the challenges for a young D making that jump? And really what he focused on was playing games. He even said, like, you got to play like 200 games to really learn this. And then I talked to Elias Pettersson after the game as well about his transition and where I asked him like where his game's at, all that sort of stuff. We talked about that, but we talked mostly in the context of Tom Willander. So what Foote was talking about was you need that experience. And he even said, like, this isn't a great way for Willander to break in because he's playing more minutes. He's probably playing against tougher competition than they would like in an ideal world, i.e. with Quinn Hughes. And Foote did absolutely at the end make it clear that it's like, oh, it's not woe is me or anything. It's just that this maybe isn't the most ideal situation for him to be making his debut, and he's going to make mistakes, which we're going to get to in a second. He made a couple last night. But he's going to be better off for it, is what Foote was saying. Now, what did I see from Willander in his debut? A lot of bad pinches. Like I counted at least 2 or 3. One of them resulted in a really, really prime scoring chance. It happens. It's a young defenseman, like Foote was saying in that clip. It happens. But yeah, there's certainly some decisions that I did not like, mostly without the puck. His stuff with the puck was actually pretty decent.
Better than expected.
But yeah, it's the off puck stuff that wasn't very good from Willander.
Yeah, and again, I expected this, right? We knew watching him in training camp preseason that probably needs some American League development time, and I remember especially the one pinch where it started with him making actually a pretty good play in the offensive zone, and then just making a tough read. And then I also think, generally speaking, the forwards haven't been very good at covering for the defensemen when they make those aggressive pinches. Like, I think Sasson was a little bit slow reloading in my mind. I was trying to watch that clip back because I wanted to know, could the forward in that situation have done better to cover for, all right, young defenseman makes a wrong read. And I do think generally that's been one of the weaknesses of this team, is sometimes the defensemen go flying up there to try and keep a play alive in the offensive zone, and the forwards, for whatever reason, just don't read that right away or are a little bit slow getting on their horse. So I think that's actually a play where I would have liked to see Sasson help out better. And I don't think if that had happened, it would have been as egregious of a 2-on-1 rush against. That was the play where I think DPD ended up sliding into Demko, but at least Willander's puck play was good. He seemed comfortable making plays. There weren't any egregious turnovers or blunders. And I was actually a little bit surprised to see him out there in offensive situations late in the game when the team was pressing, got up over 12 minutes of ice time. Power play too, as well. His passing was pretty solid. He looked fine in that environment. It was about what I expected from him in his debut.
Now we got to get this. Callie Canuck in the chat said, Willander ahead of VP Jr., DPD? No. I really liked DPD last night as well. I must say that. Last night, and I think since Quinn's been out, it's been really evident just how, and again, remember when we were talking about how, he's had pretty prescribed minutes to this point? That ain't happening anymore. DPD's playing against everybody, and he's doing a great job. He's really taken steps in his game this year. He was impressive last year. He's even more impressive this year. He's taken steps this year. I thought he was one of their best defensemen last night.
Yeah, I still think there have been mistakes along the way, but that's part of the process of, he doesn't have a lot of experience and is now being thrust into playing harder minutes and matchups. And yeah, he's held his own about as well as you could hope. And on the blue line as well, I thought Filip Hronek was a horse again. Just all around. I loved how assertive he was making plays. You can tell that when Quinn's out of lineup and he realizes, I got to be the number one guy, he takes it to the opposition a little bit more. He wants to dictate. And there were so many lovely sequences throughout where, whether it was long outlet passes, jumping up as the trailer in the rush, the way that at the point he was able to find sticks in the high slot for redirect kind of chances, even aggressively breaking up plays down low on the cycle, skating pucks out of the zone. I thought Hronek was terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what someone said to me last night? when Filip Hronek is this team's number one defenseman in 3 months, everyone's going to be really happy because he's doing such a great job right now.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that timeline.
Anything else from last night? Did you want to talk about Lucas Reichel? Got a lot of shots on goal, but I don't know. I like Lucas Reichel. I do. I think I like Lucas Reichel. But some of his off puck stuff just, I don't know. Like, remember 2 days ago when I was like, oh, I think Lucas Reichel's off puck concerns were overblown. Now I think I was wrong about that. Now I get it a little bit more. Thought he struggled at times last night.
Yeah, he's definitely generated a ton of chances for himself individually. He deserves some bottom line. He's been really unlucky in that regard. But there's no doubt that playing center ice as a 2C, you're asking too much of him, especially when he was mostly playing wing over the last couple of years in Chicago. And you could see it, right? In his Canucks tenure so far, Canucks have been outshot 24-14, and most importantly, they've been outscored 5-1. He's already been on the ice for 5-on-5 goals against. And I even go back to the Montreal game, for example. It was a breakout where he had the puck. Oliver Kapanen stripped him of it. That allowed the Canadiens to get set up. And then about 30 seconds later, Demidov scored that one-timer goal. So it wasn't the turnover that directly led to the goal against, but it's the turnover that led to them getting hemmed in, which led to them getting scored on. And I'm not going to criticize him for it. He's being thrust into a position where he's, like a lot of guys in the lineup right now, asked to do a little bit too much. I think in a perfect world, you'd have him in a middle six winger role. You'd be able to prescribe his matchups a little bit better. You wouldn't have him out there forced to take a ton of faceoffs. You see the offensive sparks there for sure. You see how fast he moves in a straight line, and that's encouraging. And I'm curious to see how the Reichel experiment unfolds, big picture. But you can tell he's overmatched from a two-way perspective as a second-line center.
Individual performances as we continue down the list here. I really just have to say it again. Everything Kiefer Sherwood brings on a nightly basis, like he's getting to that baseline of like Conor Garland level where I'm just like, okay, I know you're going to be great every night. And that's what Kiefer Sherwood's doing for me right now. And I did also want to say this. I threw this to Tom. I was sitting next to Trance last night, and I threw this to him, and he thinks it's a good take, so I'm going to say it. Drew O'Connor is starting to just see, like, it's osmosis. He's seeing how Kiefer Sherwood finds success, and he's starting to just start to do all of those things. That's my theory, and I'm going to ask O'Connor about it at some point. I'm going to have a conversation with him. Didn't get a chance to last night, but I've seen this is the best O'Connor's looked, I think, all season is these past few games. He's been playing with Sherwood, and to me, it just looks like he's like, oh, that's how I should do it. And he's just watching what Sherwood does, and he's starting to play like him. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like that take. I think since the end of the last road trip, ever since the Canucks have really been bit by injuries, going back to the road game in Pittsburgh, I've thought O'Connor's been really disruptive. He's been really noticeable, making some plays. Now, the difference between O'Connor and Sherwood is O'Connor doesn't have the nasty shot that Sherwood does. And Sherwood, I mean, is also pulling up highlight reel deke. So between the hands and the shot, Sherwood's just miles and miles better as a finisher. But at least as far as making an impact on the forecheck, using your speed to disrupt, winning battles along the wall, I think we have been seeing a better version of Drew O'Connor lately, and you're just hoping that he can find more of a bottom line. But I definitely agree. I think the last handful of games he's been noticeable, which I think is nice to see, considering his first few games of the year I thought were pretty quiet and underwhelming.
We didn't even get to it yet, but JT Miller, there's a tribute for JT Miller, and he watched it. He was on the ice. It was kind of bad timing, but it had to happen during the first time out. So after Baines took the penalty, Miller was out for the power play, so he's on the ice during the TV timeout. And then they had to thank Carson Soucy for his time. So it was like a quick, thank you, Carson Soucy, welcome back. Soucy gave a little smile to the Jumbotron, to the camera. And then the Miller tribute played, and he was like, you know how he loves to direct traffic ahead of a power play, like he's talking about all that, and then he kind of looks up and is like, oh, this is playing, so he had to look up, and he did watch it. He did watch the tribute, waved to the fans, thanked the fans, and spoke after the game as well about what a surreal moment it was and how emotional it was, and how thankful he was for his time in Vancouver, and how thankful he was that his family was able to be there with him that night, last night. And yeah, I thought Canucks fans got it right. It was cheering for the tribute. It was booing him every time he touched the puck. That's exactly what needs to happen.
Yeah, I think the fans got it right. I would love to know how much, and of course you would never actually find out, but I would love to know how much money was on the board. Do you understand the concept of money on the board?
No, what do you mean?
In locker room? So Max Boltman at The Athletic wrote a great story about this 5 years ago that explains it in full detail, and he interviewed a bunch of players about it. But the concept essentially is when there's a significant game for an individual player, like a JT Miller returning to Vancouver for the first time, guys will, like JT will presumably put money up on the board as if to say, if we win, if I score, like this amount of money goes into the team's like locker room party fund, if that kind of makes sense. And it can go into dinners or like an end of your party or whatever it is. But the point being, for big matchups like this, guaranteed JT would have had, assuming the Rangers follow this, which is a pretty common practice around the league, he would have had money on the board for, if we win, I owe this amount of money to the party fund, and it becomes like a fun thing where the rest of the teammates, they want to win the game for the guy too, because they know it's a big game for them, and also because then you have a bunch of new money in the party fund.
I never heard of this. That's great.
But Max Boltman wrote a great story on this. A lot of times related to like milestones, or again, JT, you return and play your old team. It's just another way to spice up the whole concept of money on the board, spice up a long 82 game regular season where a lot of games quite often don't mean a whole lot. This is a fun way to get players in the locker room engaged and just have fun little side quests and perks to play for.
I'm actually surprised you never heard of that. It's a pretty common thing. Yeah.
Never heard of that. No. Miss L in the chat said fans were chanting JT quitter, and then goes some. Look, I was there. There was at one point one guy just screamed JT quitter, and no one joined in. It was one guy, it was one guy that just screamed JT quitter, and nobody else joined in. So no, I'm gonna shoot that down. That did not happen. I was there. That did not happen. All right. Anything else from last night's game that you want to get to before we get to anyone else?
I don't think so. No.
All right, then let's get to anyone else. A presentation of Pacific Toyota Dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. Drive up to 72 kilometers on the battery alone, then seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower or style with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. Plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down, and it includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. The Beer Baron, with a good comment, said, that guy wasn't you, Quads, that screamed JT quitter? No, it was not me. It was not me. I don't not like JT Miller. Where is this coming from? I don't not like JT Miller. I like JT Miller most of the time. All right. Walk. What team? Oh, this is good. What team, NHL wide? And then he wants to do Canuck player. We're going to do Canuck player. We're going to do NHL wide first. Who's been most disappointing this season? The NHL team that has been the most disappointing. It might be the Rangers. It might be the Rangers, dude. But
I don't think they're disappointed because they were bad last year, and I didn't expect them to be good this year. My expectations weren't very high. Maybe Tampa. although they've
Tampa's
won a
been
couple lately.
disappointing.
Yeah, they're up to 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Maybe St. Louis 3-6-1. They lost 4 straight. After
We thought
the
St. Louis was gonna be
Montgomery
really
bump.
good.
Yeah,
and they're giving up a ton of goals too. It doesn't even matter who's in net, whether it's Hofer or Binnington. I want to say they've given up 5 or more in like how many straight games? I feel like it's every time I check the scores, St. Louis has given up 6 or 7 goals.
Dude, your dog is not happy about
No, he's
clowning
not
on the Blues right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Big Blues guy. Okay, I'm not even doing this as a bit, but like the Calgary Flames, they've certainly been really disappointing. Like I think their fans all kind of thought, and we were talking about them being a team that took a step back. I didn't think take a step back to the point where they have 2 wins in 10 games. Like 11 games. They have 11 games, 2 wins. I didn't think they would take that big of a step back.
It's worse than expected, but I thought they were going to be pretty bad this year.
I didn't think they'd be bottom of the league. Although if that team gets McKenna, that's the other thing. All these teams that we're talking about of like, oh, so disappointing. What if the St. Louis Blues get Gavin McKenna? Like seriously, think about that outlook. So pretty good consolation prize for being bad this year. Most disappointing Canuck. Or did you want to talk about most disappointing team beyond that? I don't think we had to. I think most not surprising, but most impressive with relative to expectations. Utah's definitely up there.
It has to be Pittsburgh.
Chicago's been impressive. Pittsburgh, yeah. Philly's actually playing pretty well too.
Yeah.
5-3-1. Pittsburgh being 7-2-2 is pretty crazy, hey?
And they've looked pretty good doing it. It's not as if it's been a complete fluke.
Dude, it's that damn second line. Like that's what they didn't have last year. It was that damn second line playing the way they are. Like they've been so damn good.
And I think the youth movement of having Kindle, Brunick make an impact. Shelovs has been good, and Jari as well. Their goaltending has been solid. Erik Karlsson has turned back the clock. And you're getting Brazeau and Mantha playing the best hockey of their absolute lives.
Someone brought this up yesterday. Quads once said the name Riley Tuff on this show. How did he miss Justin Brazeau? Seriously, 6'6". How did this guy?
Well, he was already in the NHL. That's why.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But still, he was a bum last year. Like he's, they signed him for pennies on the dollar. Canucks could have signed him. It's my fault that he's not a Canuck. I wasn't clamoring loud enough. But 6'6", size you can't teach, and he's putting it all together. That Pittsburgh line's so good. Sorry to cut you off a little bit.
Yeah, and I expect them to fall back down to earth, especially as I think Raquel's hurt now, and Rust is a pretty injury-prone player as well. But I was on the PDO cast with Dimitri last Friday, and the Penguins were first in the league for inner slot chances offensively. So it's not as if, all right, it's been just a PDO bender where they're shooting the lights out. They actually create offensively. And we saw that when the Canucks played the Penguins. They've been doing that as far as putting up a ton of chances and goals really all year. Their power play, I haven't checked the last couple of days, but their power play was best in the league a few days ago in terms of power play percentage. So they've completely shocked me.
Do you want to do most disappointing Canuck? I was really excited about Evander Kane, so I'm going to say him. I was really excited about Evander Kane. I thought he was going to be really good. Hasn't been really good so far. But also turning the page. I'm not saying like, oh, he sucks. He's, get him out of here, anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying relative to my expectations for him, I think Kane's been a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, Kane would probably be number one. I mean, really, the biggest disappointment is just injuries as a whole, but can't say that. I mean, now we have the context of why Quinn Hughes looked human. Just knowing that, all right, he's clearly has a knock, which made sense when we were watching him. He just didn't have the same explosiveness. Because I think relative to expectations, he was also a bit of a letdown through the first several games of the year. I think DeBrusk just 2 goals in 11 games, 4 points. I know he's had moments where he's created a lot of shots, but you want more than 2 goals in 11 games when some of your other wingers haven't, or when some of your other forwards have been either hurt or, in the case of Kane, not giving you production. So I think he's somebody that you would have wanted more from. Outside of that, not a ton that stand out to me as, oh, this guy's heavily underperformed expectations.
Anything else in the chat, Jacob? I don't think we have anything else.
No, but there is something I wanted to bring up. So all through the summer, you had me a bunch of times write that down. I just want to do a little bit of a look back because some of these have already been decided.
Okay.
So
okay.
And then there's some that are still early, but it's interesting to get an early look. So Quad said the Seattle Kraken would make the playoffs. They've had a pretty good start to the season.
And there's a team that's dealt with a lot of injuries.
Yeah. You also said Braden Coots' first goal would be at the watch party. That did not happen. So that's coming off. That's coming off the list. Jack Eichel, 100 points.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay.
That's nice.
Good start there.
Leading the league in points right now.
And then you also said Ryan Donato will get $4 million in free agency. Then that one hit as well. You also said Gabe Velarde's next contract would be $6 million or less, and he signed for $7.5 million. So not quite on that one. You did mention back early in the summer that Shelovs, Lankin, and Demko won't all be at Canucks training camp. You nailed that one. Obviously, the Shelovs trade came before that. You also said Shelovs would get claimed on waivers if he was placed on waivers. I think that is absolutely true now based on the start that he had in Pittsburgh. I'm willing to give you that one because I don't see him going on waivers anytime soon. I thought this was
going to be you calling me out. I didn't realize.
No, you've done well. Harman, you said one of Kane or Garland scores 20 goals. Well, I think Garland's
at least one of those.
Canucks, Quads, you said the Canucks would get 99 points, top 3 in the Pacific. Got some work to do to get to that. You also said Carolina doesn't make it out of the second round of the playoffs.
That's definitely happening.
Yeah. And then Mackenzie McEachran would get over 5 NHL games this year.
He got called up today.
He got called up today. So, hey, you're maybe 20% of the way there, depending on what happens tomorrow night in St. Louis. So there we go. I thought we'd catch up on some of those now as we're a few weeks into the season.
All right. So I don't know if anybody's kept an eye on Abbotsford. It's been tough sledding. Where'd it go? I saw this today. Mackenzie McEachran, team worst -9 in Abbotsford. Only 2 guys in the AHL are -10. So keep that stat in mind as we get ready for the Mackenzie McEachran experience. We'll see. It's been tough sledding in Abbotsford though. Really, really tough sledding. They've got half their team in Vancouver and then all these injuries as well. Not to mention like their guys are injured, like Chet Wu's hurt, Guillaume Brisebois hurt. Now Tom Willander's up. That's pretty depleted Abbotsford Canucks team right now.
Yeah, I feel bad for them. And this is why being an AHL GM and head coach is so chaotic, because your lines are constantly disrupted.
Yeah.
Constantly. Imagine how hard it is to maintain line combos and D pairs in the NHL where you have your own injuries. Now imagine in the American League when it's not just your own injuries, but guys getting called up all the time. I don't envy how adaptable you have to be in the American League to have success. But hey, if there's one head coach who can weather the storm and keep things on the rails, it's Manny. So,
all right. Bet365, or did you have anything else you want to get to?
I think I'm good.
All right. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. We're going back to the World Series, which I'm very excited about. Why am I having trouble finding the... Okay, there it is. Okay, tonight's game. Trey Savage is on the bump. I think that boy is going to deal tonight. I think the Dodgers are going to struggle. And we're going to take his over on strikeouts. Over 4.5 total strikeouts. We're going to hammer that. Trey Savage over 4.5 total strikeouts. Had 5 in his last start against the Dodgers in this series. So you can get that minus 155 odds over at Bet365 or whatever your bet is. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. We will wrap it up there. For my co-host, Harman Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Bazar, my name is Jake Pedrelli. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.